Brett Pontecorvo here at MainStageToAbleton.com, and today we're going to talk about how you can create smooth transitions between your patches in Ableton the same way that you can in Mainstage. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you don't miss any valuable information, so head over to my website, MainStageToAbleton.com/go, and make sure that you are subscribed to my mailing list and a part of the Mainstage to Ableton community. Every single Tuesday and Saturday, I am releasing new information that's going to be really valuable and really helpful, and I want to make sure that you're not missing out on any of that. I think it's worth a minute of our time to just talk about the very basics of what is happening when you're using a MIDI message. So a MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And basically what it does is it's sending some messages to your instruments that are in Ableton or wherever they're living about what to do. So for example, if you press a key on your keyboard, your computer is going to hear note on, plus a velocity message, then perhaps some aftertouch, and then note off. So if at any point in time that message gets interrupted, that's when we're getting the clicking, right? So, we'll be like, duck, and all of a sudden your sounds are terrible, or everything just automatically stops and it's a weird sound, which doesn't really happen in Mainstage because Mainstage sort of has a built-in way to handle this. So what is the remedy then for this situation? If we're working in Ableton, the remedy is we need to use an instrument rack. And an instrument rack has a menu in it called the chain menu. And what the chain menu does is it allows your note off messages to be passed to an instrument even when it's no longer receiving MIDI. So what the new pattern might be is you play a sound on your keyboard and it sustains, and in the meantime you switch to an organ patch. But the organ patch doesn't start until you hit any new keys. And when you lift up your hands, the note off message gets sent to your piano, so you're going to get that natural decay that you're looking for when you're using Ableton as a live performance instrument. So for this setup, we're actually going to create what I like to call a dynamic patch list. And what that means is the patch's order might change a little bit depending on who you're playing with or what set you're playing. And I like to think of this as sort of your performance instrument. So it's a bank of sounds. You'll have the ability to turn them on and off. You'll have the ability to affect the audio, but it won't necessarily be in a specific order that works for a specific song every single time. So let's take a look at how that is done. All right, so here we are in Ableton, and we're going to start with just some MIDI tracks. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this shortcut, Command-Shift-T will create MIDI tracks. Now, I like to color code these, so let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to add some sounds that I use. You may use them too. I bet you do. So I'm going to go ahead and add the slow burn piano from the Pro Piano FX collection. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add the distorted pad destroyer. And I'll link to this guy in the comments if you want to grab a copy of that pad sound. Let's do a pluck sound. Please Pizza Pluck is a good one. Here it is. All right, let's do an E-piano sound. And for E-pianos, if you're working with Suite, they actually have a free pack that you can download called Electric Keyboards. I'll go ahead and use the Suitcase piano. Then for a lead, use the noise lead. This is made in Synth 1, which if you don't have it, it is free, and I highly recommend grabbing a copy of it. All right, so right now what we've done is we've just loaded in all of our sounds, which is all well and good, but right now we have no real control over them. So to gain control of them, the first thing that we need to do is we need to put them into their own instrument racks. So even if your instrument like slow burn piano is already racked for you, we're going to make a new one just by hitting Command G. and that's going to automatically put it in an instrument rack container. And then we'll select the chain, and we're going to move this chain over to position 1. Now eventually what's going to happen is we will toggle this on and off using buttons on our MIDI controller. But for right now, let's go ahead and work through this process. So here's our next sound. Let's hit Command G. These 3 lines here, we'll go into the chain, we'll move this chain over. We'll do the same thing here. Command G, chain, move the chain over. Command G, oop, did that wrong. Command G, chain, move the chain over. And we'll do the same thing for this lead sound here. Command G, chain, move the chain over. All right, so right now, nothing is going to happen when I play keys. So you can see MIDI from, my channel strips are receiving signal, but nothing is happening. And that is because these chain selectors are set to not receive MIDI. So let's go ahead and select all of these guys and move the monitor to in so that it's always listening for what you're doing. And then let's go ahead and make some MIDI mappings. So what you can do is you can hit this MIDI button right here, or if you prefer, you can use Command M. And what we need to do is we need to map a toggle button to each one of these chain selectors. So I'll start right now by clicking here, and we'll do this button. Now what I want you to notice right away is that the max here is 127, and we really don't want that. We want the maximum to be 1. So now we'll move over to here, we'll select this instrument rack, and we'll map this button, and again our maximum being 1. We'll move over this button, maximum being 1. Now right now I am using the Launch Control XL, which is my preferred controller. It's really flexible and it's got a lot of great user modes, which is what I'm using right now. So I'm actually able to map the buttons across the bottom. Let me show this to you here. I'm able to map the buttons across the bottom of the screen to Ableton, and that allows me to have these toggle my sounds on and off. So now that that is done, let's check it out here. I'm going to press my first mapped button, and you'll notice that I have sound. All right, now I'm going to hit the second button, and that is going to turn on my distorted pad. Now right now that doesn't sound like much of a pad, and that is okay because you can come in here, oop, not there, can come to our distorted pad destroyer macros here, and we can map our knob to the filter. So now, I have control over how much the filter is letting through, so I can change the amount that I want to make it a bigger, buzzier pad or not. Same thing happens here. Same thing with the next guy, which I don't actually even remember what that was. Yes, E-piano and noise lead. And that's also really loud. All right, so let's go ahead now, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna create some buses. So you can do that by hitting Command T, or you can do that by right mouse clicking and choosing Insert Audio Track. Now right now we are going to make 3. Is that right? So we're gonna do 1 for pianos, we're gonna do 1 for pads, we'll do 1 for leads. And the trick with this is actually where we are going to do all of our sound editing. so we can be able to control multiple pads or multiple things all at one time. Audio from nowhere because we have no input, but now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to send our audio from this channel strip, which is our keyboard channel strip, to our pianos channel strip over here. So we'll go audio to pianos. Now this guy is our pad, so we'll go audio to pads. Here we'll go audio to leads. Here we'll go audio to pianos. Here we'll go audio to leads. Okay. Now, there are some basic things that we're going to want to be able to do on all of these channels. So, first of all, I think we should add some reverb because reverb is a great effect to use and to have at your fingertips. So I've created this reverb, and I'll place a link for sure in the blog if you want to get a hold of this. You can hear it sounds like this. Aha. You'll want to make sure that your buses are turned to monitor in as well. Pretty long decay, pretty ambient, but it works for me. So you can grab a copy through my website. Also, I like to have an auto filter. Auto filter is also a lovely thing to use, and I also occasionally like to have, not pedal, where are you here? Dynamic tubes, hot driven tape, and I do a video explaining how I get my piano sounds. To have the sound that I have, so if you want to check that out, there is a link as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and group these guys, Command G, the same way, and we're going to drag them by clicking, hitting Option, and dropping it in pads, clicking, hitting Option, and dropping it in leads. All right, so let's finish up our mapping here, because that's really what's going to make this dynamic patch list shine. So we're going to go back into mapping, and we're going to map our volume faders to the master faders there. So now, when I turn my piano on, I have control over how much volume. Same deal, I've just turned on my pad. And if I turn a lead on, I could probably use a little bit less here. All right, so now let's go to these effects and talk about how we map them. So what I like about the Novation Launch Control is that everything is really linear, right? So for example, this guy here, this is my piano channel. And so this is going to go to my filter, this is going to go to my reverb, and this is going to go to my dynamic tube. And the same thing is going to happen for each of these channels. So as I'm working, I can turn piano up and down, I can turn pads up and down, I can turn leads up and down, and I can alter the same effects using them across the top on each one of these guys here. So let's set that up. In pianos, let's go into mapping mode, and we're going to turn the first knob to the filter frequency, the second knob to the wet dry, and the third knob to the dry wet of hot driven tape. Let's come over here to pads. We're going to do the same thing on a one channel over. We'll do the same thing on our leads, filter frequency, dry wet, dry wet. All right, so now what we've created is a really basic dynamic patch list. So I can press a button and I can really quite drastically change the sound of my piano using these pads, right? So you can see what I'm doing with these pads here. All right, and there you have it. That is the way that you can make really easy patch changes inside Ableton Live. Now, don't forget, I want you to head over to my website right now at mainstagetoableton.com/go and subscribe, because I want to make sure you don't miss any of the new valuable content that I have coming out every single Tuesday and Saturday. I'm constantly sharing helpful things, especially if you're a keyboard player, especially if you're playing live, that I don't want you to miss out on. So make sure you head over to mainstagetoableton.com/go.